Hey everyone, welcome back to Reissued. If you're new here, my name is Andrew. If you're not new here, you're probably not watching this live. I don't know. I am here in my studio at my newly L-shaped desk, and I am so excited to be doing a little Q&A with you guys today. Just as we're coming in here, can everybody hear me okay? I have a little mic on. I'm trying that instead just to make sure that the audio quality is hopefully a little bit better. I'm still here on my webcam, so we're not super high tech, but awesome. Andy says that we hear me. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so I am so excited to be doing a little Q&A with you guys. We did hit 60,000 subscribers this week, which is crazy and very exciting. I really appreciate everyone that is watching and sharing my channel, especially over the last couple of months. We've had a lot of new people here on the channel. So on that note, I did do some questions. I asked for some questions over on Instagram and also some questions here on YouTube. And I've compiled a list of things that I want to chat about with you guys as we go as well. If you have questions in the comments, if you're watching here live with me, feel free to drop those in as well. I'll be kind of monitoring the chat as I go, but also I'll just be chatting with my list of questions as well so that we can kind of stay on task. So before we get started today is my dad's birthday. So everyone say happy birthday, Paul. We did a little birthday celebration with him last night, which was super fun. And just to give kind of a layout of what I'm going to be talking about today and kind of how that's going to work, I'm going to start with just a couple of sort of more personal questions. Then I'm going to get into a couple of home decor tips and dilemmas. You guys had some really interesting questions. We're going to talk about trends because we love to talk about trends. We're going to talk about thrifting. Of course, we love that as well. And then we're going to finish off with some more kind of channel related questions about future content and current content on the channel and all of that. All right. Okay, so let's get started here. So I'm just going to go in with some kind of personal questions first. Um, Over on Instagram, the real Siobhan says, tell us your history background. I've heard you speak about NYC, like more info. Now, I know that a lot of you that are probably watching this have been with me for a long time, so you know a lot about me personally, but I also know that we have had about maybe 10,000 new people in the last couple of months. So there are maybe a lot of people that don't know that much about me or my background. So I'm just gonna do a quick little recap here to share that with you. Where do I start? I grew up liking a whole lot of different things in terms of art, music, dancing, a lot of different things. I ended up going to North Carolina School of the Arts for ballet performance. And during that time, I got really into choreography. And so when I graduated from undergrad, I moved to New York City and I lived there for 7 years. I worked as a dancer and a choreographer. In addition to a number of other jobs, I was a postmate. I did admin work. I was a group fitness instructor at Equinox. I went through my super fit era. And then during COVID, New York was very shut down. And so I wanted to move closer to my parents. And so I moved down here to Georgia. And I've been here for the last 5 years. I purchased my house in 2021. So it's been about 4, 5 years now, almost. And I did sort of revive my dance career a little bit here. I did a gig at Lyric Opera of Chicago where I had danced before. I was doing a little bit of guest artist work, but this year I sort of made the decision to move completely away from dance as a part of what I was doing, just because it felt, for most of my life, I've tried to juggle doing a lot of different things at one time. And I think that has not always made me as successful as I could be. Sometimes that's been necessary, but in other ways, it feels like it divides my time in a way that doesn't allow me to really push as hard as I can in one area. So this year has been a really big year for my channel, just putting all of my effort there. And I think it's really paid off with a significant amount of growth. I feel like my videos are better. I feel like I'm able to go more in depth and I don't know, establish more of a rhythm of consistency that feels better for me as well. So on that note, there was another question. Blue Heaven 7 on Instagram said, "Are you still dancing locally in Atlanta?" I am not dancing currently at all. I think that my chapter as a dancer probably has closed just because of my age and where my body is, and I'm just not in the place to be doing high cardio at 9:30 p.m. in the way that I used to be. Um, but for choreography, that is something that I continue to be passionate about and that I really love. And so that is something that may come around again in my life. I'm not closing the door on that entirely. What I will say is that one of the things that I really liked about choreography and what drew that to me originally was that you have the ability to create a world. You're creating characters and you decide what they wear and what they look like and how they move and what the soundscape is or the music is. And it, that's sort of what I do here now. It's very different, but I think as I feel more comfortable on YouTube and as I feel like I can take more creative risks, it's interesting to start to think about my channel in that way where I am building a world here to bring other people to be a part of. And then, as we start to expand into doing some merch and some products and things, I really want to extend that world out to you all as well to make that a part of your world. So, in that sense, that part of me is living on. Um, all right. Other little personal questions. This was funny on Instagram. Someone said, all right, this was a cunning BHC said, why do I feel like I recognize you from somewhere? Were you on a British Bake Off or something? I was not on a British Bake Off. I think I would have to be British for that. But also, yeah, I think I just have one of those faces. I think that's one of the things that I learned, especially when I was actively performing. Like if I wore a wig for something and like my hair changed, I would suddenly be like totally unrecognizable. I think my face just like kind of looks like a lot of other faces. I don't know. It's funny. Um, and then the other question, quick question, is your mustache a lot of maintenance? No, it is not. I go in with scissors every once in a while and just trim right along the bottom, along my lip, and that's pretty much it. I love my mustache. I've had it for six years now. I had to shave for a couple of gigs, but it's my look. I like it. All right. Just checking in the chat over here. A lot of happy birthday for Paul. Yay. Um, are you and the charming boyfriend looking to the future? You seem to have a good time together. Yeah, absolutely. We are now more officially moved in together. And again, that's a bit of a stretch in that term. Like he's not here with me now. I'm getting ready to go to his place tonight. We are still splitting our time, but we're together like closer to 4 or 5 days a week as opposed to like 2, 3 days a week. So that is better. It's complicated because we both own our homes and we like our homes and we like each other's homes. And it's different. He's in the city and I'm not. And so it's nice to be able to have both, but the level of maintenance that's required between two homes right now is a lot and the expense is a lot. So right now that's working or we're trying to make that work, but we are getting to see each other more. Okay, moving into some home decor questions. Now, I'm going to start with this question from Leah from Flanzella. Raise your hand in the chat if you're following Leah already on Flanzella. If not, go ahead and check her out. She's a collage artist. She was based in Toronto, but now she is based in Dallas, I think. And she is not only very talented, but also a really wonderful person. She and I connected and we did a collab maybe probably close over 2 years ago now. We did a second collab last year as well. And she's just a really wonderful sense of community here on YouTube. Like she and I will message sometimes about like YouTube stats, or she was the one that's like, Andrew, you need to get a lavalier microphone. Here's the link, order it. And I don't know, I appreciate that. It feels kind of lonely sometimes here as a YouTube creator, and it's nice to have that community. So love to Leah. But Leah's question was tips on styling bookcases. Yours look amazing. Mine need a consulting. So I do have a full video on bookcase styling, but I wanted to take a look at Leah's bookcases and see if I had any more specific thoughts that came to mind that I can kind of supplement that video with. I wish I could share. I looked on her Instagram and found a little a shot of her studio where her bookcases are. I wish I could share that with you now, but I'm not high tech enough to be able to do that. So if you want to go check her out on Instagram, I believe she is just at Flanzella on Instagram. You can find this reel as well. But the tips that came to mind looking at her bookcases. So Leah, this one's for you. This is what I think you need. So first of all, she has some IKEA bookcases. She has them, the ones behind her desk are really full with like tons of vintage National Geographic magazines, which is awesome. Again, she uses that a lot, excuse me, for her collage work. So I love that. I think that looks great. Up on top of the bookcases, there's some dead space up there. I think that's one thing. I think about this. Katie's bookcases that we did for the bedroom makeover are a good example. If your bookcases don't go all the way up to the ceiling, I do recommend putting something up top of there to kind of give a little bit of height and to kind of fill out that space a little bit. In my studio, I have some mannequins and some um, I don't know, just various things that sit on the top. I think that's a good tip if you are working with the bookcase that has a top that doesn't go all the way up to the ceiling. Get some big pottery up there, some big glassware, just to kind of fill out that space a little bit. Also, maybe like some cool lighting, or I don't know, just fill out that space a little bit, Leah, I think. Also, I noticed on her bookcases, a lot of times there's shelves and there's books and then there's dead space on the top. With adjustable shelves like that, I always try to keep as minimum dead space on top of books if you have them stacked as possible. Um, that I think might be something that would clear up a little bit of that visual like unbalance, I guess, if that makes sense. Um, on the note of balance, I think um, maybe a little bit more color depth. Her studio has a lot of white and a lot of bright colors. I think bringing in some deeper colors, some kind of murkier colors would be good. I mean, that's what I do. So that's obviously going to be my preference. I think some metallics in there would be really nice as well. I think that curation is a big thing that I didn't really touch on that much when I did my built-ins video. But curating to have a mix of things that feel beautiful. I think some more wood tones would be really nice in Leah's space. She has the wood tone kind of bookcases, but bringing some of that into the accessories and layering that could be really nice. But also curating in a way that tells a story. Um, so, for instance, like for Leah's aesthetic and for her space, a lot of her collages pull from vintage inspired photographs, and or magazine clippings, and so I think a little bit more of a vintage aesthetic could be really nice to get some more vintage pieces in there. Obviously, it's an art studio, so she has art supplies everywhere. Finding ways to package, brushes and pens and things in a way that is aesthetic and beautiful, little jars. Just to give, I don't know, for myself in my studio personally, I love that kind of like vintage apothecary kind of vibe where it feels so lived in and it's a workspace, but that can be beautiful when seen through kind of a vintage lens, I think. Um, and then the other thing I was going to say about the bookcases, um, I think one thing that I find really makes a difference, and I think I talked about this in both the built-ins video and the one with Katie's bedroom, is the backspace behind items. So if you have a shelf here and you have some little sculptures or little things on it, and the back is empty, I think that's a missed opportunity to create a little bit of layering. So I like to stand like a really beautiful book up at the back, or to find a piece of art that fits along the back. Obviously, not things that are like the most beautiful or the most interesting because they're essentially acting as a background for everything else. But I do think that filling in that space a little bit can create, again, filling out that dead space from the bottom of the shelf to the top. I think that that would be really good. Um, all right, checking in with the chat here. Hi, Michelle. All right. And hi, Andy. I see a lot of regulars here in the chat and some new people as well. I really appreciate seeing everybody here. So many really great things. Someone asked if I have any big projects planned for 2026. I'm going to hit that question at the end. I had that question already on the docket as well, but thanks so much for asking. All right. Coming into a really interesting question from Vision. This came to us on YouTube. So she said, I'm going to read this one out to you because she's very specific here. She said, I have two questions. One, I have a situation where I have to work around a reclining sofa. No. No cup holders, thank goodness, but it's still a very regular leather reclining sofa, not designer. It's what works best for my very tall partner with a bad back. We got to respect that. How on earth can I make a primary living room I love with this as a centerpiece? There has to be a way. All right. There's a lot to unpack here because this is really tough. I think that one of the things that I don't know, it's such a luxury to be able to edit your space in a way that only has things that are beautiful and only has things that are the most functional and the most perfect. So this is a very real thing that I think a lot of people deal with. Um, yeah. So with the reclining leather sofa, I have two thoughts here to start. First, I think one thing that I try to do when there is an element of a space that does not feel um, aesthetic in the way that I'm wanting it to. I try to approach things from an angle first of, is there a way to make this the story of the space? So, for instance, one example of that was in my pantry or my little speakeasy pantry between my living room and my kitchen. I mentioned when I did that makeover last year that that room, it's not really finely done. The ceiling was super crumbly in there. We put up beadboard, but there's kind of visible screws. There's just elements of it that it's not the most perfect, like polished looking room. And so I really made an effort to lean into that with this kind of cellar speakeasy vibe. I think there can sometimes be a way to take the things that are I don't know, quirky or unexpected, but are necessary and make those a part of the story. So what comes to mind for me, I have a visual in my mind, maybe we all do, of what kind of a puffy leather reclining sectional looks like. Um, my first thought was I was thinking about, I just watched a video from Living with LK. I mentioned in a recent video that I've been really liking her channel, and she had a very interesting video where she was doing her living room makeover, and basically she's tried a whole bunch of different stuff all year and has ended up with something that's like not really quite right, but it was a very realistic take on a living room makeover. Um, but at one point, she had a chair in there that was this kind of big, black, puffy chair that when I saw it, it read very 80s to me. It was like not something that I would choose, but it was something that she found really beautiful. And it worked with her style. I wouldn't say that she and I pull from necessarily similar style references. Like she's in California and her style is a bit more mid-century and that sort of thing. But there was something about that kind of 80s vibe where I feel like if you paired it with other 80s elements, but like in a cool way, that kind of puffy sofa look could work. So I guess a lot of times, and we're going to talk about this on several different questions, but sometimes going back to the source of where certain style lines originate from can be helpful in giving them context. Um, for instance, like if you were to buy a mid-century sofa from West Elm, obviously that's pulling a lot of reference, visual reference from the 1960s and 50s and mid-century style and that atomic kind of vibe. And so if I was seeing a mid-century sofa for the first time and not sure how to work with it, doing a little bit of research into what the origins are of that style are and allowing that to kind of inform how you're making choices and making that a part of the story could be really helpful. That's not to say that I want Vision to make her living room a total 80s explosion. Um, but I do think that that could be an interesting place to start. I kind of am going to want to dig on that a little bit more. Maybe I'll get back to you. The other thing that came to mind, and maybe this is not a fully formed idea. I was just thinking about this today. But I think often one of the things that is most troublesome to me visually about a big, chunky reclining sofa is the sides and the back, especially if it's floating in the center of the room and you see the back of it. And so I wonder, I mean, obviously the reclining element has to tip backwards, but I wonder if there's a way to kind of build some sort of like wood frame with like built-in little end tables or something that would go around the outside and the back. I've had a thought for a while. I've mentioned this back when I was doing a lot of the DIY diagnosis videos. Like when sometimes there's these really big cushy leather sofas that I see at the thrift store, and I think, wouldn't it be amazing to build a really sleek, modern looking wood frame, and then to put all of that kind of cushy leather inside of it, so it's still super comfortable, but it has a little bit more structure and contrast, so it doesn't just feel like a marshmallow in the middle of your living room. So I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how that would work with the reclining sectional or reclining sofa, but I don't know. That came to mind as well. Moving on to her second question. She said, two, I want to add moldings and panels to my drywall only old ranch. I love that. I hate drywall. Think arts and crafts. I'm inspired by your coffered ceiling and the panel extension on your fireplace. If I can, I'd love to have it be stained and sealed wood. Cool. Where do I start with making decisions on height, size, layout of adding these kinds of architectural features? There are infinite possibilities, so I'm completely frozen in making initial choices, but I would love to make these updates throughout the house in different ways to infuse some craft, character, love, and utility, not just one room or corner. Um, okay. First, I want to start by saying, I guess my question would be, what is the architectural style of your home? I see that you said that it was a ranch. I think again, I feel like it's always a fine line between, I don't know, you want to respect the original architecture of your home, but then also give it the flavor that you're wanting it to have. My what comes to mind is that if you have a ranch style home and you put really like ornate paneling in it, that seems like a weird combo to me. So, but when you said arts and crafts, like maybe something a little bit more on that line could be good. Um, I don't know. I would proceed with caution there, or see if you can find some reference images of homes during the era that your home was built or similar homes that you liked. Again, I know that can be really hard the way that we view the 70s and 80s and 90s. A lot of that we just think is ugly. There's nothing redeemable, but there's actually some really good design that came out of every period. So it's possible that you might find some reference images that would be helpful to help you decide on proportion. Um, in terms of making decisions, and I'm gonna hit this one again several times too. I hate making decisions. I think it's very difficult to know where to get started. And so I would encourage you to hit some architectural salvage places, maybe, to hit some thrift stores, maybe not to get the actual materials that you're gonna get, but just to get some inspiration. It kind of narrows down the field a little bit because you're right, there are infinite possibilities. You could do anything. So sometimes I find that physically going to a location and challenging myself to being inspired by whatever is there, it can narrow the field a little bit and give you somewhere to start. Um, and then when you get to a point where you're actually able to move forward with things, I have two thoughts. One, this one actually would inform proportions as well. If you're going to go to the store and buy a 4x8 plywood, maybe you want to consider your proportions in a way that, okay, we're doing a 4 foot high around so we can neatly divide into two pieces rather than being at 6 feet and then having a bunch left over. That's a fine line. I'm pretty sure when we did the beadboard in my bathroom, we ended up just cutting a bunch of pieces off because I wanted a specific height. But that can be helpful if you're looking to be economical and be, not as wasteful, I guess. Um, but yeah, and that can be really helpful. And then again, painter's tape is your friend. When I did my kitchen, stuck painter's tape up on the walls for how high the picture rail was going to be, where the sconces were going to be placed, where the cabinets were going to be placed. Similarly, in the bathroom, we did tape all the way around. How does this chair rail height feel versus something higher? Yeah, it's that's I'm not reinventing anything there, but that it definitely can help to have a visual across the whole space. All right, gonna jump over to the chat for a moment. Um, Andy says, I find it difficult to curate my bookshelves and also keep them useful. Yeah, that's something that we're going to be talking a lot about when I do the studio makeover, kind of officially and finish that in the coming year, which is a goal of mine. Um, this is a space that has to work really hard for me because I have so many things that need to be stored here that are functional. And I feel like right now we're striking a balance on the side of being overly cluttered because I have some things in here that are pretty but not functional. And so that is a difficult balance to find for sure, Andy. Um, all right. Have you ever made over a long, narrow living room with only one partial wall? Built-ins, door openings, fireplace, and front door straight into the, or is this just a me problem? I would have to see a photo of that. I'm not picturing it. I would love, the form is still open on my website if you want to submit. I would love to see photos of that space and maybe address that in a future video. All right. Ooh, I'm going to address this one here since we're talking DIY projects. Do you ever find, like I do, that the DIY project ends up costing more than if you had just bought it, but you still like yours better? Um, Depends on the project, Lynn. Um, I would say when it comes to, I don't know, like a project like my needlepoint pillow that I'm working on, the tiger one. If I had not gotten the yarn from my grandma's house, it's possible that could have started to approach the price level of some of the things that I was looking at for sure. Although I would feel I'm mostly doing that as a little activity to do with my hands, so I enjoy the process as well, and it's custom, so I will like it better. I guess I don't find all that often that um, I think certainly they end up costing more than they would just to pay for them in terms of time. Like if we were to do a breakdown of my hours, my parents' hours, everyone that's involved in it, if we did a breakdown of that, it absolutely costs more than maybe, to just buy the item. But I don't often find that. I don't know. I think I really try to wait for a project to come around until I can find the materials in a way that's pretty affordable. If I were to just decide tomorrow that this is a project that I really want to do and go out and buy all the things new at the hardware store, I think it probably would end up being about the same. So I think that's why the thrifting and the trash hunting is so important to me, to make sure that we're keeping that on budget for sure. Um, all right. Oh, Birdie. Oh my word, he's at his desk. Yes, I am. I know, right? It's just crazy. Driving on Mars said, "I need parents like yours." Yeah, they're very, very helpful. Naomi says, "How is the new office layout working?" It's working really well. Again, I'm sitting here a lot. I have not plugged in my monitor yet because the cord now does not reach the power strip, but I did get a new power strip for it to be able to do that. So I should be able to plug my monitor in. Um, Loving sitting here. Obviously, again, the sofa is a little bit weird here with it. Someone said in the comments that they suggested leaving the desk the way that it was, but then building out an addition here so that I would be able to sit here like this. I really like that idea. I think that depends on what I'm able to source, but I thought that that was really smart. Um, Plant Food Chain says, "Did you end up redoing Matt's apartment? I just finished that video, dying to know." We have done nothing. So we did the shoji screen in the bedroom. Done nothing in that room since. I did a little bit of restyling. I did a ad for Revival rugs that was like specifically, it was like an Instagram only ad or something. And so we did a lot of kind of like styling work to make that look like a finished room. But we have not done anything in the bedroom. And then in the living room, dining room area, we have not made any changes there either. We're trying to figure out where to put plants and things. That layout is really working well though. So we're definitely going to start to fill that in a little bit in the new year. Um, what is the heraldic looking panel in the window behind you? This is oh, it's on this side. Sorry. I'm not mirrored here when I'm looking at the monitor. On this side, it's I think it's a Frank Lloyd Wright stained glass. This was sent to me by a subscriber. This is the same subscriber that sent me the tartan blankets that I featured in the Christmas video. This was like maybe 2 years ago. It's just been kind of chilling up here. I like it. Might be nice to hang it, but it's just, I don't know. I like the colors. I think it's really pretty, and I really appreciated that. Lynn said, "I love a cheap freebie DIY. I'm about to create 2 file cabinet containers that I picked up for $10 total." That's awesome. That's a great price for sure. All right. Moving into the next question that I have prepared here. This is from Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Um, I'm going to read what she says here. "As someone trying to identify my own interior style, I find myself being easily influenced by trends. How do you avoid being sucked into a design trend and staying true to your own personal style?" Um, Now, the first thing that I want to say here is that have noticed lately that my attitude on trends has changed. Ooh. My first video that performed really well was my kitchen video that was titled "What This Is Why I Hate Trends" or something like that, because it was all about certain elements that I had chosen for my kitchen. Other YouTubers were saying was already out of style. Um, and I think that a lot of people related to that feeling that chasing trends is unproductive, impossible to stay up to date with, costly, uh, and makes every space feel the same and uninteresting. So I get where you're coming from, Victoria. Absolutely. I think where I have turned a little bit of a corner on trends is that um, it's not like very much of what we're seeing come around with trends is particularly new or different. We're just seeing the same things kind of be recycled over and over again. And so, in that sense, one of the goals that I have, I saw it was an interview with someone, I think it was on the House Beautiful Instagram account, but it was this designer lady talking about how like the best way to design is to pull a bunch of things from a bunch of different eras, because that way it's totally unique, it's totally timeless, and it's yours. And I loved that. I thought that was great advice. And I feel that way definitely when I decorate now. I have things that are mid-century. I have things that are 80s. I have things that are like 1800s. Like it's a mix. And so I guess my feeling with trends at this point is that if we're cycling around where, one year 80s is trending and then the next year, I guess we've been in the 90s Ralph Lauren trend. That was another video I saw. I saw this creator post about how she thought the Ralph Lauren trend for Christmas was so stupid because that's not a trend. That's what Christmas is meant to look like. That's what our grandparents' Christmas looked like. It's plaid, and I agree with that sentiment to an extent. But also, I find that like having trends come around a little bit for holiday, it's not. There's a difference between being a slave to the trend and getting rid of everything that you have and only having things that relate to that trend. But it's another thing to say like, oh, like candy food is trending this Christmas. Let me just add a little bit of that in and like put a little like I don't know. I feel like at this point I think of trends as kind of adding flavors to your home stew, if you will. Like, it's one more thing that is going to kind of give you layers and add that anachronistic like multi-time period kind of feeling. So I don't think that trends are the enemy in the way that I perhaps used to. But back to Victoria's question here, she's feeling like she's easily influenced by trends and and that she gets sucked in and that she's having a hard time finding her own personal style. So the first thing that I would say for Victoria is that similar similar to what I said for the other is I think that it's a lot of pressure on you if you're new to decorating your home and you're not really sure what you like. It's a lot on you to decide everything yourself, which sofa, which artwork, whatever. If you just walk into a West Elm or you walk into a Home Goods, it's like, okay, which are the things that I like? Which are the things that are just the trends? So I think the first, obviously, I talk about this all the time. My first question would be, what is your house telling you? Where are you located in time and space? Like, that can be really informative in terms of, you can establish a great personal style, but if it doesn't work for your home, it's not going to work, period. I think good design is a balance between personal style that you develop over time, of course, but also being true to your home and allowing that to shine in the way that it needs to. So I would start with, what is your house telling you? And if your house isn't telling you anything, if it's a new build and it's not particularly interesting, I guess you can kind of disregard that maybe. So then I would switch to mode number two, what is the thrift store telling you? Um, Again, I thrift because it's cheap. I thrift because you can get better quality pieces at a better price, but I also thrift because it helps you make decisions. I feel paralyzed with indecision, and it's taken me a long time. Even now, I don't know the right thing, and I feel like I have a good core sense of what my design style is and what pieces I love, but that doesn't mean that it makes it any easier to make decisions, right? But on that note, I think my advice for decor, if you were just starting from scratch, is to start with what you love. Go into the thrift store and think about like, what causes an emotional reaction. Um, I think that there's another layer here, which is a lot of the story with trends is that it's I see insert celebrity, insert influencer. I see that person and I want what they have. And so you buy the things that you see that they have. And that's how a trend comes around, right? So I think getting to the core of who am I as a person and what do I actually really like? That's a tough one. But if you can start to kind of like separate that a little bit, like there are aspects of trends that I really like, and there are aspects of trends that I don't really like. And over time, you can kind of like learn to tell the difference for sure. But even now, like what is one piece in your home that you love? Like what is the what have you loved for a while, right? Um, there's pieces of artwork and pieces of furniture that I've had for 10 years that I still love as much as when I first got them. There's other things that I've bought, I've thrifted, that I don't love so much anymore. So your core style, I think, is something that develops over time of what are the things that you've taken on that you consistently love, that you always go back to, that feel like that backbone of what your design can be. Um, and in that note, I made a note here. I made notes on this before, so I can keep on track here. I said, be aware of the difference between pieces you love and pieces that complete the look. Again, if I were to go into my living room, for instance, love the deconstructed leather chair. There's way too much time and effort that went into that, but I love that. That's something that I will have with me for my life. Um, The leather sofa in there, I really like it. I think it's beautiful. I paid a lot of money for it, so now I feel like I'm attached to it, but it to me is a piece that completes the look. It is not a piece that I love, like, if I were packing up a truck and could only have one truck full of stuff, would I pick the sofa? I don't know. It's a piece that completes the look of the room, and there's a lot of pieces like that that I have around my house, things that I've thrifted where I'm like, this it's kind of like if you're putting together an outfit. You have something that is really unique and special, and then you have a basic, right? Not everything can be a standout piece. And so I think it's important to kind of start to decide, like, what are the things that are my core pieces and what are my filler pieces, if that makes sense. Um, and then the last thing that I would say here, going back to what we said with Leah and what we said on the second with the ranch style home as well. I always am thinking about what is the story, and so when it comes to finding personal style, I think that I would push that question to what is your story. Um, Part of my personal style, I love to wear a leather jacket. And so there's always going to be a part of me that's a little bit badass and biker and bondagey and rebellious and that kind of vibe. That was the person that lived in New York City and the person that lived in a loft apartment when I first moved to Georgia. Um, then there's a part of me that, I really love. I don't know. I love mid-century. I love mid-century before it came around with the cycle again. There's a part of me that will always love that, the clean lines, this really like these unusual forms and very sculptural shapes. And then there's a part of me, I feel like my house, being in a home that was built in the early 1900s, has given me more of an appreciation for more classic style. And so I've acquired a lot of things that work for that as well. But then, even for myself personally, my home is filled with artwork of places that I've been, or people that I know with, they've made artwork, or so your home is a story of you. It's a reflection of you. And so I think, I guess that would be part of the question as well when it comes to personal style, or if you're going to the store and you're buying items and it's like, if you're deciding, should I jump on this trend or not? It's like, does this reflect me? Does this feel like it's part of my world and how I see myself in my home? Because ultimately, that's what I think a beautiful home should be, is a reflection of you. All right, popping over to the chat here. Andy asked, "Do you find that you can incorporate a trendy item into your space if you have a timeless foundation?" That's a great point. Absolutely. And yes, ultimately, I think that I would hesitate, like, and I've talked about this on my channel before. And this is one of the things that I'm really happy with my kitchen, is that a lot of the things that were trending at the time that I did my kitchen are things that are very classic, with the subway tile and with the butcher block countertops. I think that there's no harm in accessorizing with trends, as long as it's like cool and not like basic and generic. That's not helpful. I'm sorry. Um, but I find, I don't know, that's a very low stakes kind of place. If we're getting into, I'm going to do that green variegated tile that everyone has done in the last 2 years in my shower, I don't know. Like, I have a hard time jumping on the bandwagon for things like that, because that does feel very permanent. But then again, when people did brightly colored bathrooms in like the 50s and I know the 50s or beforehand, you see these like pink bathrooms from the 30s. I kind of love that as a style choice now. So maybe you just have to wait long enough for it to come back around again. Um, but yeah, no, I think it absolutely is important. I think that laying a classic foundation is a really good idea, and you can change up the artwork, change up what's going inside to make that work better. Um, Driving on Mars said, I've heard it called "Don't Fight the Architecture." Exactly, exactly. Birdie asked, "Do you have anything that you picked up that you love that you can't find a place for yet in your house or Matt's?" Yeah, I just sold some stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I mentioned that in my mini makeovers video. I had a velvet yellow chair that I had thought of for the guest room, which is Matt's office. Um, I just am not a yellow person now. For a while I had a lot of yellow things, and I just don't find that yellow's working for me. So I sold that. I also sold the nightstand that I had hand painted and flipped. Um, I sold a sewing machine that had been a nightstand in there as well, in the bedroom as well. One of the things, it's interesting, I part of the fun of working on Matt's house as well, is that there's sort of a highest and best use kind of element to it, where Like for instance, we're gonna go into my conservatory, which is also my dining room, and do some rearranging soon, I hope, because that room is just not working functionally. The back doors are completely blocked. And as we're bringing plants in and out or we're tracking things through the house, it just having a dining table right in the middle of that flow is just not working very well. And so we're probably going to be doing some rearranging in there. And so I love that dining table that is in there. We cut that down specifically to fit in that space, and I love it. And I'm not sure it will end up in there. So I floated the idea this week of putting that in Matt's house instead. I think it would be gorgeous. I don't know that it's his style as much, but I think he will trust me on that maybe. But I don't know. I think it would be really beautiful. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Um, all right. Oh, this is so funny. Driving on Mars said, "It's such a key concept. I wish I lived at Hogwarts, but trying to recreate my 70s that in my 70s apartment would not work." Exactly my point. And the other thing I want to say, I kind of want to, I'm just going to jump in here with this for a second. I kind of want to do a video on this. I don't really know. I wanted to try to loop it into my living room reveal video, but that ended up being so big. But one of the things that is a bit of a pet peeve of mine is like, certain people that are really into fantasy will be like, "Oh, I'm doing like a fantasy inspired room." And they like have to include like a little like Hogwarts logo or a little whatever. And I'm like, that's not the thing that we love about a fantasy world. The thing that we love about Hogwarts is this warm and cozy atmospheric space that's been around for hundreds of years, and it has so much history and these rich colors. So like there's absolutely a way to like, when there is something that you love design wise that does not fit in your house, it is possible to kind of filter it down to what are the core things about this that I love. So if I had that 1970s house and I loved Hogwarts and Harry Potter, like rich, dark, moody colors that have that kind of 70s lounge vibe, and like a lot of like velvet and those rich fabrics that feel, I don't, do you see what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a fun way to kind of filter things so you're getting the feeling that's yours, but in a way that's appropriate for your home. Um, Lynn said, I find that using more timeless items, sorry, just jumped there. And sometimes neutral materials for the big ticket items is a great foundation. Then go trendy with paint color choices. Paint is cheapish and pretty easy to change. I agree. I think paint colors are tricky for me because I would almost go the opposite, not the opposite. I think paint colors, I think, are sometimes a really good foundation for more saturated colors. So again, I love to work with a murky color, something that's a little bit more on the neutral side. So if you love blue, take it to a murky blue, green, gray, and then give us like bright pops of blue in the room, if that makes sense. I think that that can be a little bit more timeless. Um, Someone asked, would you consider doing videos showing different design styles? Um, yeah, I would love that. I think that's one of the things, one of my goals for this year was to start doing more designs for other people. When I it's kind of channel inspiration. Sometimes I look to someone like Lone Fox or like Alexandra Gator or DIY Danny, people that are sometimes working on other people's spaces. And I think that's really fun because there's a lot of course, I have built a core design style that works for me and works for my home specifically, but that doesn't mean it would work for everybody's home. And so there's something kind of fun about going into a home that's very different than mine and trying that on and seeing what that feels like and how we can apply that. And I can see how that would be really helpful for you all as well. If you're living in a mid-century home or from a home from the 80s or 90s, maybe my channel doesn't feel as approachable or relatable in terms of design tips. So yeah, I would absolutely be open to that. All right. All right. Moving on to questions about thrifting. Yay. So Salty Gardening, who I think is here in the chat today, she said, what tips do you have for those new to thrifting? It often feels overwhelming trying to sort through everything in thrift stores. Love your channel. Thank you. Okay. First thing that I would have here to get started, I have two thoughts. One is to make a list of things that you need. This is what I do a lot when I thrift now. And it's a pretty broad list at this point because I'm working on my house and Matt's house and sometimes things for my parents or for my sister. But I think that having kind of a running list of things that you're looking for at the thrift store is helpful. Of course, you want to keep an eye open to just whatever beautiful things are there because you never know what you're going to find and you can't really control that or manufacture that. But I do think it's helpful to kind of narrow things down in terms of like, this is something that I'm really looking for. So when you come across that, you're ready for it. The other thing that I would say, and this is probably my best tip for this if you're new to thrifting, is if you're going to look for one thing, look for quality. Wood, brass, glass, um, rich, like fabrics that feel expensive. If you're doing clothing, wool, merino wool, silk, um, quality doesn't lie. And more often than not, if a piece is high quality, it usually is also kind of pretty. I don't know. I just thought of that in the moment. I'm not sure. I would have to do a case study to see. But I don't know, like if just on the whole, if you're going down, I don't know, my Goodwill has like a metal aisle of all the metal pieces. If I see a solid brass piece there, I would say 9 times out of 10 it's an attractive piece. It's a classic candlestick, it's a vintage like fan tray, it's a big like round tray. I don't know, like more often than not, if it's a high quality thing, it probably is a pretty good look. So I feel like that is where I would start. And also, that's one of the things that we love about the thrift store that I don't feel like we're getting in the same way with newly manufactured things now. It's like everything is melamine and everything is plastic. And so part of making the switch over to thrift life is having a way to embrace that kind of quality. So that would be my top tip for you, salty gardening. I would also say to trust your emotional reactions. I think that thrifting is an emotional thing for me. Like when you connect with something right away, you feel it. However, the last tip that I have for you here is to go with a friend. I used to go thrifting with my mom a lot, and she's very like, that looks good, that doesn't look good. Like she's pretty able to make decisions, but also able to talk through things. And I find that I do that a lot with Matt now as well. Um, Matt has this shirt when we were thrifting in Rome together. We both like looked at it and we're like, that is the ugliest shirt I've ever seen. And then we like both kept looking at it and we're like, but it's kind of cool. Like, I don't know, do we love it? And it now he bought it and it is, or I bought it for him and it's now his favorite shirt in his closet. Like so it's sometimes it's helpful to have kind of, there's a dialogue that happens and that when I thrift alone now feel overwhelmed. And like sometimes I want that feedback where I'm like, am I crazy for liking this? Is this really ugly or is it cool? Like there's a very fine line there. And sometimes the best finds are the ones that are right on the line between ugly and cool. And so going with a friend, I think is a great idea. Someone that you trust their aesthetic, someone that, is open to different ideas. It's not just going to say no to everything or shut everything down. I think that can be really great. Um, also, and carry a tape measure for specialty larger items. I think that's a great idea. Um, Lynn said, the hardest thing about thrifting for me is the hit or miss of it all. I love Facebook for that so I can see really what's available rather than thrift stores. Absolutely. I think, a lot of people are like, Andrew, you get such good thrift finds. It's because I go to the thrift store all the time. Like I'm there multiple times a week at the stores that are close to me, often on the weekends. Like it's just a numbers game of hitting stuff. So I totally understand that, Lynn, why that would feel overwhelming. And Facebook can be good for that. It's just dealing with people on Facebook Marketplace is hard. I don't love that always. Um, Birdie says, I love being able to look around my house and see things I thrifted and remember the day and the location is part of the story of my house. That too, I was thinking about that with Victoria's question as well. It's like part of things feel disposable in terms of trends when you like bought it at Target sometimes. But like if you bought it at the thrift store and you remember that day and it was a once in a lifetime find, like it changes the way that you relate to items. And even if it is a trendy item, I don't know, it can create more of a longevity in your mind in terms of how you think about it. Um, All right. I'm going to move on to, we're in the last almost 10 minutes here. I'm going to move on to my final questions here. I love this one. This person, I think it's the same person that comments this all the time, this kind of thing. Does it bother you that you wouldn't be able to grow your channel without your parents and boyfriend? Um, yeah, it did at first, actually. Not okay. I don't think that it's true that I would not be able to grow without my channel without my parents and boyfriend. As evidenced by like the mural video, for example. That was all me. But it was in a room that was created by a number of other people. So it's hard to say, right? I think that if I was just me working alone on my channel, that would be very different. My house would look very different, but I don't doubt that it would still be good. It just would be different. I guess with working with Matt and my parents, my priority is to make things look beautiful and to be inspiring. And if I were pushing myself to do everything myself, then I think it could get done, but it would be a lot slower. I wouldn't be generating the amount of content that I'm making. I wouldn't be, able like, I wouldn't raise a ceiling by myself, absolutely not. But there's a bravery that comes with having that kind of backup and that expertise that my parents arrive with, not only that, like, it's a brainstorming thing as well. Like, my parents were actually just here at my house, like, an hour ago, and we were out in the backyard talking about projects for the new year and talking about the shed and the garden and the deck and all these things, and, like, a lot of that creative process is collaborative, like, um and the other thing that I would say as well is I think people give me a hard time with that because it's my parents and because they're donating their time to do that, which I really appreciate. But that's not different than Alexandra Gator having a team of 8 people that work with her. That's not different than DIY Danny having someone that works with her as well. Like, come on. Um, but with that being said as well, I think for a while I felt somewhat embarrassed about having my parents help me because feels like I don't know, maybe this is just a millennial thing, but there's this like work hustle thing of my primary goal in life will be to move out of my town that I grew up in and move as far away as possible and do everything myself and build this power career and see my parents twice a year. And that's what success looks like. And I think that it was humbling for me to move back to be closer to my parents and to accept help on things. But that's how, like, uh, I don't know, like, maybe European people weigh in here, but I think that's something like intergenerational living and family businesses, like, that's something that's been around for a long time. That's not a new idea. I think that's a very modern concept that growing up is doing everything yourself now? Um, so yeah, I think that that's been a shift. And the other thing that I will say is that I get so many comments, which I love, that say, I love seeing you work with your parents. It reminds me of when I worked with my parents. My parents are gone now, and I remember those memories when I watch your videos. I love that. I think that that's become a core part of my audience. And that way, like, yeah, that the growth has come from that. Absolutely. Because no one else is doing that on YouTube, as far as I know. There's, sometimes couples that work together. So, that would be me and Matt. But with my parents, like, I don't see a lot of that. I don't know, like, trying to think of like Makara tours. Like sometimes she features her parents. I love that. I think that's so wholesome. I think that's great. They're not really working on her projects so much, but they're featured in her content. I think that's wonderful. Um, I don't know. So yeah, I do think that's become a big part of my channel, and I've kind of embraced that now. That's what we do here. It's fine. Um, all right. I'm just looking in the comments here. Um, Patrick says, "Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going it alone. There should be room for both." Absolutely. I admire so deeply the people that are here on YouTube that are doing projects all by themselves. I think that's wonderful. And I think there's absolutely room for that. I would challenge and say that I think that sometimes they're not pumping out projects as quickly as I am, or their uh, quality is not as good, or they're, not to be comparative, but like people have different priorities. Like, I think that if I were doing everything myself, I could do it, but the quality would not be as good. The projects would not be as dramatic in terms of what the reveals are. Like, it just depends. It's different priorities. Um, okay. Final few questions here. I have a couple more that I want to hit, and then I'll hit a couple in the chat, and we'll hopefully be in on time. Maybe we'll go a little bit over. Um, oh, someone said Christine McConnell amazes me. Martha Stewart, who I love Christine, and she is someone that does do. I mean, she has a production team that are making videos for her. See, that's the other thing. But like, I think she's so amazing and does so many things by herself, and I love her. She's one of my like OG inspirations on YouTube for sure. All right. Mollyflower844 said, my question for you is, what are your plans for 2026 with your projects for your channel? So with a couple of these things that we're hitting here in the end, I am going to talk. I just shot a video today, actually, that will come out next Friday at the same time, where I am sort of recapping the year, um, like, here on the channel. And then the video after that will be in the new year. We'll do a house tour video, and I will kind of walk you through a lot of the plans that we have for the year. So I'm going to save a little bit of that. But as I mentioned, we are looking at doing a lot of outdoor projects, deck, maybe garden, sheds. Right now, we're at a little bit of a standstill in terms of how much we work on the interiors of the house, because I just have stuff that needs to be stored in my entry. I'll show you in the house tour video. I have this giant shelf system set up in there that's housing tools and just like, things that need to be around. And that room is going to need to be empty before it gets made over, you know? So ultimately that stuff needs to move out to a shed or some sort of storage solution before we can really move inside. As I mentioned, we are going to be in the studio again, doing some work and hopefully getting a final makeover done on that. And then also in the conservatory, rearranging some furniture. Matt is going to be very involved in the plant process in there. We're just trying to create this like beautiful Victorian conservatory, um, indoor garden, like wonderland there. And I think that's going to be really fun. Erica's question was, what's on the to-do list for Andrew's Atelier once you've finished reorganizing the workspace? Painting, sewing. I am going to be doing some sewing. I think um, someone had a question. Eloise, I didn't write this one down. Eloise had a question. She had a couple questions, but one of them was about travel plans for the year, I believe. We are going back to Japan in January, February. And one of the things that I loved the most about Japan was the fashion there. Amazing. So we are going to be doing some sewing project, I think, leading up to that with some kind of like deconstructed, repurposed fashion. That used to be like the core of my channel back in the early days. So hopefully there will still be some people out there that want to watch that kind of content from me. So we will be doing a little bit of sewing in here for sure. Um, with painting, I don't necessarily have plans to do any painting right now, but I know a lot of people are really missing the art content that I used to make. So if I feel like the mood strikes and there's the right time in the schedule for that, I definitely could see that happening for sure. Um, all right. And someone had a question. This was Kali Hinohosovids. I probably butchered that. I'm so sorry. She said, "What is your favorite DIY flip of 2025, and what project would you approach differently with hindsight?" I am going to cover these in next week's video. I'm going to shamelessly plug that now. I am talking about best projects of the year, my favorite projects of the year, worst projects of the year, things I would have done differently, mistakes that were made that were not talked about here on the channel before. So look out for next week's video for that for sure. All right, so I am through my full list of questions here. I'm going to take a look in the chat. If there are any other questions that you have right now, just drop those down in the chat. We'll get those right here in the last few minutes. Um, all right. Just reading through here. A lot of comments about my parents being involved. Would not be the same without your parents and your boyfriend. Exactly. Well, that's the other thing I was going to say earlier. One of the things that I really miss about choreography is in dance to an extent too is the creative collaboration that comes with that. Like I remember a really good example of this, like my last dance gig that I did, I think was at Lyric Opera of Chicago, and I was doing a production of Aida. And so it's like it was very emotional the first day in the rehearsal where it was like we had, we were dancing on stage with all of this chorus stuff. And like ultimately it was like me and 12 other dancers having this moment on stage with 100 people in the chorus behind us, with like a full orchestra of people in front of us. Like it was like you're a part of something that's so much bigger than you, and it's just like epic to be kind of a cog in the wheel in that way. And so I think that's one of the things that's been a challenge about doing everything, for a while when I was doing everything for myself on my channel, is that it's like, it's just you. Like you're on your own. You're not a part of anything bigger. You're not contributing to that. You're not getting any sense of community. And so it's been really nice to have. Of course, I get community with you guys here in the chat and everything, and that's something that I will say as well that I've been really, I've really made an effort to be present for all of the live premieres this year, and I love that. I love that time so much because it is really validating to get your feedback live as the video is premiering. It's wonderful to hear your ideas and your comments. I appreciate that more than I can say, and so this community here is great. But yeah, in my day-to-day life, it's much better to be working on a project with other people for sure. Caesar98 said, "What era do you like most of interior design?" Ooh, that's a tough question. I think that if I were to have to like pick one design aesthetic, it's for me, it's a really tough call. Like, I don't know, like I love like an old Victorian house kind of vibe or an old home kind of like mine, like early 1900s. I don't always love all of the really frilly aesthetic elements that came with that, but I just think there was just a magic to the way that homes like that were constructed with these tall ceilings and all of this woodwork. I just think that's beautiful. I also have a real appreciation for Art Deco design. in the kind of like 20s aesthetic. I think that's really, really awesome. But I love mid-century too. Mid-century, I think we've all been a little bit exhausted by because it has been so trendy in the last 10, 15 years. But I don't know. I can't answer that question because that's too difficult. Um, Birdie says, my last question and comment makes it sound like I'm trying to stalk you over there. uh, what did you say? Have you been someplace yet where a viewer recognizes you? Yeah, that actually happens a lot. Only at thrift stores. A couple times at Goodwill, very often in the Restore that's in Atlanta. Very often we see people, Matt and I will both get recognized, which is really cool. People are so friendly, and I love when when you say hello. Um, yeah, it means a lot to me that you guys are watching, and it's so wonderful to be able to connect in person because again, kind of a weird thing to like be putting videos out into the ether and then see usernames here talking about like I don't know, it's not I don't know that it has really sunk in that these are real people that are watching me. It all feels very like virtual. So it's really nice to, when I meet people in person that are watching my channel. That's really lovely. I also have I still work at the Restore and I have a lot of customers that come in there too that say, "Oh, I watch your channel." I think that's super great. I love to hear that. All right. All right, everybody. So we are at 7:01. So I'm going to wrap this up here. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch with me today. I thank you for your questions. Thank you for your interest in my channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Um, I don't know. I'm feeling so excited and optimistic about all the things that are coming in the new year. And so I just can't wait to share more with you and to continue to make things that are beautiful and to inspire you and share my home with you. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night, everybody.